Worry often masquerades as a sign of wisdom. We tell ourselves that by worrying, we are being careful, responsible, and thoughtful. It feels like a form of mental preparation, a way to anticipate problems before they happen. But in reality, worry is not a product of wisdom. It is a distraction from it. True wisdom comes from understanding the nature of a situation clearly and responding with calm insight. Worry clouds that vision. It distorts facts and inflates fears, turning small uncertainties into looming catastrophes. When we worry, we stop seeing things as they are and start imagining the worst possible outcomes, often far removed from reality. This distortion caused by worry leads to a kind of paralysis. Instead of taking clear, deliberate steps, the mind becomes tangled in what ifs and hypothetical disasters. Worry creates a noisy inner dialogue that repeats itself endlessly, draining mental energy and making it difficult to focus on what truly matters. In that noisy state, the ability to think critically, to make decisions, and to act effectively is compromised. The mind is overwhelmed not by actual problems, but by imagined ones, and this flood of imagined threats buries the real opportunities and solutions under layers of anxiety. Moreover, worry is an emotional habit rather than a rational strategy. It's a response rooted in fear rather than understanding. While wisdom encourages us to assess a situation with calm awareness, worry hijacks our emotions and pulls us into reactive patterns. It magnifies uncertainty instead of helping us navigate it. That is the number R. The constant churn of worry can even cloud our intuition, the quiet inner voice that often guides us toward the right path. When the mind is busy worrying, it cannot hear or trust that inner guidance. It's like trying to listen to a whisper in the middle of a thunderstorm. The noise is simply too loud. There is also a subtle danger in mistaking worry for preparation. People sometimes believe that by rehearsing every possible negative scenario, they can somehow control or prevent future pain. But this is an illusion. Worry does not prepare the mind to handle challenges. It exhausts the mind and body, leaving one more vulnerable to stress and less capable of adaptation. True preparation involves grounded awareness, calm planning, and flexible readiness, qualities that worry undermines by fixing the mind on fear rather than on constructive response. Finally, it is important to recognize that worry is a choice, a habitual mental pattern that we can begin to change. Just as noise drowns out music, worry drowns out clarity and wisdom. The moment we notice worry creeping in, we have an opportunity to pause, to observe it without judgment, and to gently shift our focus back to what is present and actionable. This shift is not always easy, but it is where true wisdom begins. Not in frantic worrying, but in quiet clarity. Worry often convinces us that it gives us a degree of control over uncertain situations. When we worry, it feels like we are mentally preparing for what might happen, as if by repeatedly imagining potential problems, we can somehow prevent them or soften their impact. But this sense of control is only an illusion. True control comes from clear, intentional action rooted in understanding and acceptance, not from the restless, repetitive cycles of anxious thoughts. Worry traps us in a mental pattern where we believe that thinking about every possible danger is a form of control. Yet in reality, it only keeps us stuck in fear without enabling real influence over outcomes. The illusion that worry provides safety is powerful because it appeals to a very human desire, the need to protect ourselves and those we care about. We want to avoid pain, failure, or disappointment, so we try to. brace ourselves through worry. But worry, unlike genuine control, does not build resilience or solve problems. Instead, it keeps us fixated on what we cannot change. It is like trying to hold on to a slippery rope with a loose grip. No matter how tightly we clutch, the rope continues to slip through our fingers. We mistake the tension of worry for a protective act when it actually exhausts us and weakens our ability to act when the moment calls for it. Another way to see the difference between worry and control is to look at how each affects our response to uncertainty. Control implies a readiness to respond appropriately to what life presents, based on a clear assessment of reality. It involves preparation, learning, and flexibility. Worry, on the other hand, creates a false sense of readiness by rehearsing fears rather than fostering solutions. This mental rehearsal doesn't prepare us to adapt, it prepares us only to be more anxious and reactive. The mind, caught in this cycle of worry, cannot calmly assess the situation or make thoughtful decisions. Instead, it is trapped in a loop of imagined threats that offer no practical roadmap forward. Physiologically, worry also mimics a kind of fight or flight response that keeps the body in a heightened state of tension. This chronic stress reaction is exhausting and harmful over time, yet worry convinces us that this state is necessary for our safety. In truth, prolonged worry undermines the body's and mind's ability to function optimally. The very thing we believe protects us, constant vigilance through worry, actually diminishes our capacity to be present, to think clearly, and to act decisively. Real control emerges from calmness and centeredness, not from agitation and fear. Lastly, the illusion of control through worry also creates a cycle of avoidance and resistance. We worry because we want to keep bad things at bay, but this keeps us mentally fixated on what we fear rather than what we want to create. It narrows our focus and reduces our ability to see opportunities, to trust the flow of life, and to engage with challenges constructively. In this way, worry becomes a self-imposed prison that limits our freedom and effectiveness. The paradox is that letting go of the illusion of control opens the door to genuine influence, not by controlling everything, but by controlling how we respond. It is easy to fall into the mindset that life's difficulties are unfair punishments, obstacles set deliberately to block our happiness or success. When things don't go as planned, we often feel trapped, as if the universe is conspiring against us. However, this perspective overlooks a deeper truth. Life is not a trap designed to catch us off guard, but a teacher guiding us through experiences that shape our growth. Each challenge carries within it a lesson, a hidden gift that, when uncovered, expands our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Challenges test us in ways that comfort never can. They push us beyond familiar boundaries and force us to confront parts of ourselves we might otherwise ignore. When we resist or resent these challenges, we miss the opportunity to learn from them. But when we embrace them as teachers, we open the door to transformation. It is through struggle that resilience is born, through failure that wisdom is gained, and through discomfort that courage is forged. Life's difficulties become the soil in which our character grows, not chains that bind us. The process of learning through challenges is often subtle and non-linear. It may not be obvious at first why something painful or confusing is happening, and the lesson may only reveal itself in hindsight. Sometimes we must experience the same kind of difficulty multiple times before we understand what it is teaching us. This is not a punishment, but an invitation to deepen our awareness, to refine our approach, and to cultivate patience. The repeated lessons serve as gentle reminders that growth is an ongoing journey, not a quick fix or a destination. It is also important to recognize that these lessons are not external impositions, but arise naturally from life's unfolding. Nature itself operates through cycles of growth, decay, and renewal, teaching us that periods of hardship are balanced by times of healing and abundance. When we view challenges through this lens, we start to see life as a dynamic process, one that continually offers new chances to learn and evolve. Instead of feeling victimized, we begin to trust the rhythm of life and to participate actively in our own development. Finally, shifting our perspective from seeing challenges as traps to seeing them as lessons requires a certain openness and humility. It calls us to release the need for control and certainty and to welcome the unknown as a space for discovery. This does not mean we should passively accept suffering, but rather that we can approach difficulties with curiosity and willingness to learn. When we adopt this mindset, life's toughest moments become not walls that block our path, but stepping stones that lead us forward. Inner stillness is often misunderstood as simply the absence of noise or external disturbance. Many imagine that peace can only be found when life is perfectly calm and everything around us is orderly and predictable. However, true stillness is not about escaping the chaos or eliminating all challenges. It is about cultivating a deep, unshakable calm within ourselves that remains steady even in the midst of life's storms. This inner calm is a profound form of strength because it frees us from being tossed about by every external event or emotional surge. When we cultivate inner stillness, we create a space between stimulus and response, a moment where we can choose how to engage with whatever arises. Without this space, our minds tend to react impulsively to stress, fear, or frustration, often amplifying the turmoil rather than easing it. But with stillness, we gain clarity. We are able to observe our thoughts and emotions without being swept away by them. This presence allows us to respond with intention rather than react out of habit or anxiety. It is in this calm that real power resides because we are no longer controlled by the chaos around us. Stillness is also a fertile ground for insight and creativity. When the mind quiets, deeper wisdom and intuitive understanding can emerge. Like the surface of a pond settling after a storm, our thoughts become clear reflections of what truly matters. In moments of stillness, solutions that seemed hidden become visible, and our connection to ourselves and the world deepens. This inner peace is not passive but alive, a dynamic presence that anchors us amid uncertainty and change. Moreover, inner stillness builds resilience. Life inevitably brings challenges, but when we are anchored in calm, we recover more quickly and with greater grace. This strength is less about physical endurance and more about mental and emotional balance. Stillness enables us to hold space for difficulty without being overwhelmed by it, to face adversity without losing our center. It becomes a refuge we can return to whenever we feel scattered or shaken, replenishing our energy and focus. Developing this stillness requires practice and patience. It often starts with small moments of quiet, a deep breath, a pause before speaking, a mindful observation of the present. Over time, these moments expand, transforming our habitual response to stress. We begin to carry calm with us not as a fragile state dependent on external conditions, but as a core quality that strengthens and sustains us no matter what arises. Worry consumes a tremendous amount of mental and emotional energy, yet it produces little in terms of positive outcomes. When we spend time and effort fixating on what might go wrong, we drain ourselves of the vitality needed to engage fully with the present moment. This energy, instead of being a resource, becomes a weight that drags us down. We become trapped in a cycle where worry feeds on itself, creating fatigue, anxiety, and a sense of helplessness. Recognizing that this energy is being wasted is the first step toward reclaiming it for more meaningful purposes. Redirecting the energy once used for worry requires a conscious shift in focus. Rather than spinning in circles of what ifs, we can intentionally channel our attention toward growth, both personal and situational. Growth comes from curiosity and willingness to learn, qualities that worry suppresses. When energy is invested in understanding challenges, building skills, and seeking solutions, it becomes constructive rather than destructive. This shift not only preserves our energy, but also empowers us to navigate difficulties with greater confidence and creativity. Resilience is another vital outcome of redirecting worry's energy. Resilience is not a fixed trait, but a capacity we cultivate through practice and experience. By transforming worry into mindful action, we build mental strength and emotional flexibility. Each time we choose to respond thoughtfully instead of worrying, we reinforce our ability to withstand future stresses. This cycle of positive reinforcement turns what once felt like a drain into a source of power, enabling us to bounce back more quickly from setbacks and maintain balance in turbulent times. Purpose provides a powerful anchor for redirecting energy away from worry. When we connect with a clear sense of meaning or intention, our efforts gain direction and significance. Instead of being scattered by fear, our energy flows toward goals that matter deeply to us, fueling motivation and persistence. Purpose acts as a compass, guiding us through uncertainty with clarity and resolve. This alignment transforms worry from a futile mental exercise into a catalyst for deliberate and inspired action. Finally, the practice of redirecting energy away from worry requires patience and self-compassion. It is natural for the mind to default to worry in moments of uncertainty or fear, and changing this habit takes time. By gently noticing when worry arises and consciously choosing where to place our attention, we gradually rewire our responses. Over time, what was once wasted energy becomes a wellspring of growth, resilience, and purpose, a vital force that propels us forward rather than holding us back. Acceptance is often misunderstood as passive resignation, as giving up or giving in to circumstances beyond our liking. But true acceptance is far more active and empowering than that. It involves recognizing and embracing reality as it is, including the aspects that are outside our control, without wasting energy on resistance or denial. This clear-eyed acknowledgement creates a profound sense of freedom because it releases us from the futile struggle against what cannot be changed. When we stop fighting against the uncontrollable, our mind and spirit find spaciousness and calm, allowing us to turn our attention to what truly matters. Surrendering control is not about weakness or defeat. It is a wise decision to conserve energy and focus. Many times, we exhaust ourselves trying to force outcomes or micromanage situations that are inherently unpredictable. This resistance not only drains us, but also often leads to frustration and disappointment. Acceptance, in contrast, means letting go of the need to dictate every detail, which paradoxically opens up new possibilities. When we stop gripping so tightly, we can adapt more fluidly, respond with greater creativity, and move with the flow of life instead of against it. By accepting what we cannot control, we create space to influence what we can. This shift in perspective changes our relationship with challenges. Instead of being overwhelmed by uncertainty, we begin to identify areas where our choices and actions have real impact. We start to invest our energy in practical steps and decisions that move us forward. Acceptance helps us to prioritize and focus, directing our efforts toward what is actionable rather than what is imagined or out of reach. This freedom that acceptance brings also deepens our emotional resilience. When we resist reality, we often experience feelings of anger, anxiety, or despair. These emotional states arise from the clash between expectation and reality. Acceptance dissolves this internal conflict by aligning our mindset with the present moment, reducing mental suffering. It enables us to meet life's ups and downs with equanimity and grace. This emotional balance strengthens our ability to cope with hardship and maintain clarity under pressure. Importantly, acceptance does not mean complacency or passivity. It is the foundation for wise action rather than avoidance. Once we have surrendered what is beyond our control, we can move forward with courage and intention. Acceptance clarifies the boundaries between what is ours to influence and what is not, guiding us to invest in efforts that are meaningful and effective. In this way, acceptance is a powerful form of self-mastery that leads to greater freedom and empowerment. Anxiety often feels like a heavy cloud that paralyzes the mind and body, trapping us in a cycle of fear and hesitation. When we let anxiety dominate, it feeds on uncertainty and fuels endless what-if scenarios that prevent us from moving forward. However, the antidote to this stagnant fear is action. Deliberate, mindful action that interrupts the mental loop and redirects energy toward constructive movement. Taking even a small step forward can break the cycle of anxiety, reminding us that we are not powerless and that progress is possible. Action grounded in mindfulness is different from reactive or impulsive behavior. It requires presence and clarity, a conscious awareness of what is happening within and around us, instead of rushing blindly or avoiding discomfort. Mindful action invites us to engage fully with the moment. This kind of movement is intentional and informed, guided by calm observation rather than frantic worry. When we act mindfully, we create a space of calm agency where anxiety loses its grip, replaced by a sense of purpose and control. Moreover, action provides tangible feedback that anxiety cannot. When we are caught in anxious thoughts, our mind spins stories without evidence. Taking action, even in small ways, grounds us in reality by showing us what actually unfolds. We begin to see that feared outcomes may not materialize or are less daunting than imagined. This evidence challenges and dismantles the imagined threats anxiety builds up, weakening its hold and restoring confidence. Action becomes a way to test our fears and reclaim our power over them. Action also creates momentum, which is crucial in overcoming the inertia anxiety produces. Once we move, even slightly, it is easier to continue moving. This momentum builds resilience and optimism because each step forward is proof of our capability. Movement energizes the mind and body, releasing stress and activating systems that promote clarity and well-being. By cultivating a habit of mindful action, we create a positive cycle that progressively reduces anxiety and enhances our capacity to face uncertainty. Lastly, mindful action reconnects us with our deeper values and goals. Anxiety often clouds our sense of direction. That is the number R, making us focus on what we want to avoid rather than what we want to create. Taking conscious steps aligned with our purpose shifts attention away from fear and toward meaningful engagement with life. This reorientation not only dissolves anxiety, but also enriches our experience by linking effort with intention. In this way, action becomes a powerful tool to break free from anxiety's grip and move toward a more grounded, empowered way of living. Life is constantly unfolding around us, and it is deeply responsive to our inner state. When we resist what is happening, whether circumstances, emotions, or change, we create friction that slows us down and generates tension. Resistance often stems from fear, attachment to how things should be, or discomfort with uncertainty. This opposition makes life feel like a battle, and we expend precious energy struggling against the current. However, when we cultivate presence, a mindful awareness and acceptance of what is, we stop fighting the flow and begin to move in harmony with it. Presence is not passive surrender. It is an active state of engagement where we bring full attention to the present moment. In this state, we are alert yet calm, open yet grounded. When we embody presence, we become more attuned to the subtle signals and opportunities that life offers. We can sense shifts, notice possibilities, and respond with greater ease and wisdom. This alignment between our inner state and external reality creates a kind of synergy where challenges become manageable and progress feels natural rather than forced. When we stop resisting and start aligning, life begins to work with us rather than against us. This shift transforms obstacles into pathways and setbacks into lessons. That is, the energy that was once wasted on struggle is now channeled into creative solutions and positive momentum. We become co-creators of our experience instead of victims of circumstance. This collaborative dance with life opens doors that were previously hidden and reveals resources within ourselves that we didn't know existed. The power of presence also deepens our connection with others and the world around us. When we are fully present, we listen more deeply, respond more authentically, and act with greater compassion. This openness attracts supportive relationships and fosters environments where mutual growth is possible. Life's flow is relational as much as it is individual. Our presence invites a positive response not only from circumstances but from people as well, creating a network of support and possibility. Finally, aligning with life through presence nurtures a profound sense of trust and peace. We come to understand that while we cannot control everything, we can control how we show up. This trust is not blind optimism, but a grounded confidence based on lived experience. The experience of noticing that when we stop resisting, life shifts in ways that support our well-being and growth. This ongoing practice of presence allows us to navigate life's uncertainties with grace, knowing that life is not a force to battle, but a partner to engage with.